They could be in this city. They could be in the state. They could be in this country, maybe in another country. But your future spouse is somewhere right now. If that's your vocation, you can begin to pray for your spouse today. Tonight before you go to bed, ladies, you can say, Lord, please bless my husband, even though I don't know him. And gentlemen, you can say, Lord, please bless my wife, even though I don't know her. But tonight, you can make a choice to begin to love your future spouse. Now, let me ask you a question. If you're called to be married and to live a life of love that way, how can you begin to love your spouse right now even though you don't know them? Pray for them. How else can you love your future spouse right now even though you don't know them? If you were created for one person to spend the rest of your life with in love and raising a family, how can you love them now? Well, let me ask you, how do you want them living right now? Wouldn't you want them saving themselves for you? If you were created for one person, right? Wouldn't you want your future spouse, when you finally get married or you get engaged, and they'll say, you know what? I was praying for you before I knew you. I loved you before I knew you, and so I saved myself for you. That's a beautiful way to love your future spouse. So, just a thought about marriage. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about another life of love. And it's a special call of love that Jesus invites some of us to, and that's a life of celibate love. To be a priest, or to be a religious sister. Now, most of you here probably know a lot of good priests, and I hope you also know religious sisters. The call to the priesthood and religious life is a beautiful, beautiful call. Father Bob and myself, our vocation in life, we were created to be priests. God called us to be priests. So when I was created in my mother's womb, and Father Bob, the same thing, God knew at that moment, even before we were created, God knew who we were going to be. And I can tell you, even as I stand here before you, I know that God created me to be a priest. God created me to be a priest. And I can tell you that I love being a priest. Being a priest is a deeply fulfilling life. Every day I thank God for the gift of calling to be a priest. To be able to celebrate the Mass. To be able to hear people's confessions. To be able to counsel people. To be able to be with people during really good times. And to be with people during really difficult times. To be Jesus to them. That's a beautiful life. Now we're all called to that. To be Christ to one another. We're all called to love. But some of you might be called to love in celibacy. When a man becomes a priest or a woman takes her vows to become a religious sister, we vow to give our lives to Jesus alone. So we're not married. Now, to some people, celibacy is absurd. Right? It's extreme. It's unreasonable. And you know what? Celibacy is absurd. Celibacy is extreme. Celibacy is unnatural. It's unreasonable. But you know why we live that way? Because God's love is absurd. God's love for you is extreme. God's love for you, and the human mind, God's love is unreasonable. Did it make sense for God to become human and to die on the cross? Didn't that seem extreme? That doesn't make sense to our human minds. That is an extreme love. Jesus dying on the cross for you and me is extreme. It seems extreme to us, and it is. And yet that extreme love is the most fulfilling love that we can ever experience. So sometimes a person who is touched by that extreme love of Jesus feels called to live in an extreme way, in celibacy. to give our lives to Jesus alone and to serve the church. Now, some of you here may have, and I bet some of you have, had thoughts of being a religious sister or a priest. Some of you may have had those thoughts already. Now, if you've had those thoughts, that's a great thing. Don't be afraid. Don't push those thoughts out of your mind. When you pray, if you hear the voice of Jesus, if you feel a desire in your heart to be a priest, gentlemen, ladies, if you feel a desire in your heart to belong to Jesus because you know how much He loves you and you want to return that love the same way, if you feel your call in your heart to give your life to Him in that way, don't be afraid. God has a purpose for you. And just as Immaculée Eve found her purpose in darkness, we don't have to wait for dark times to find our purpose. We can find our purpose now. All you need to do is have a good friendship with Jesus. Pray every day. Worship Him every day. Go to Mass every Sunday. Go to confession. Talk to Jesus from your heart. He will show you. But I can tell you this. If you're called to celibacy, to celibate love, ladies, if you're called to be a religious sister, gentlemen, if you're called to be a priest, it will be the most fulfilling life that you live. Because it would have been the reason that God created you. And so, if you leave with any thought tonight from this talk, remember, when you go to bed tonight, whatever you're going through right now, whatever you're going through, you might be going through a difficult time, or you might feel like your life is great right now. When you go to bed tonight, remember that God created you for a particular reason. That there's a purpose to your life. And that He created you to touch the lives of other people with His love. Whether that's in marriage, or religious life, or priesthood, whatever it is, remember that He has a purpose for your life. And let me give you a piece of advice. Every night, before you go to bed, you can pray 3 Hail Marys that God will show you your vocation. Just 3 Hail Marys every night that our Mother Mary will pray for you, and that you say, Lord, through the intercession of my Mother Mary, I'm going to pray these 3 Hail Marys so that you can show me my vocation. That might not happen in a week, it might not happen in a year, it might not happen in 5 years. But if you do that, He will begin to speak to you in your heart through your desires about your call. And if you feel called to the priesthood of religious life, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Because it will be the most fulfilling life that you can live. So I will pray for you, and I ask you to pray for me, pray for Father Bob, pray for all the good people here who lead you in this youth group, that you will come to know your vocation through a deeper knowledge of God's love for you. God bless you.